Hello and welcome back to the Follow Your Spark podcast. It's your host, Gina Casbarro, and today I'm coming on for a solo episode about a topic that pretty much every single one of my coaching clients and friends and anyone I ever meet struggles with. And this is about why taking time and prioritizing time for rest and rejuvenation is so challenging, and why it's also one of the most important things you can dedicate your time for. So, if you have ever felt like it's hard to slow down, it's really hard to make time and space for practices that you know will leave you feeling good, and yet you feel guilty or you procrastinate doing them or you just put them to the side, if that's you and you want to be able to make more time and space for practices that do fuel you, that fill you up, that give you the energy that you need to dedicate to all the other things in your life that matter to you most, this conversation is for you today, my friend. First, we're going to talk about why is this so hard? Why is it so hard to make time and space to slow down, to do nothing, to stare out a window, to drink a cup of tea without looking at your phone or doing a million different things? And one of the reasons is because we have been conditioned to attach our worth to our productivity. We have been conditioned to measure the value of a day based off of how much we accomplished. And we're so used to getting dopamine hits from checking things off of to-do lists and measuring success by how much money we're making or how much progress you made on something or how productive it felt like you were today or how much you did. We're measuring our worth by these factors instead of believing that you are inherently worthy. You don't need to do anything in order to be worthy or valuable or enough. So, one of the reasons why it's so hard to make time and space for slowing down, like I said, is because we've been conditioned to believe otherwise. We've been conditioned to look at our time as an equation of what is it getting me in order to invest this time in something? How much money is it making me, etc. We've also been trained to multitask. And again, how can I get the most done in the least amount of time? So how can I be paying the bills and also listening to an audiobook and also trying to figure out my plans for this weekend and a million other things all at the same time? Again, because it's this rush to do more, to figure out more, to think more, and be more productive in the time that we have. So that's one challenge that we're fighting against, this constant need to be busy. Another is the distractions that are in our faces every single moment of every single day. The pings on our phones, the accessibility that everyone has to us. If you're on social media, the call and addiction and dopamine boost of social media. And again, the millions of choices that we have in any given day, in any given week of where we could be directing our time and energy. All the events that we can be going to, all the things that we can be doing, all the needs that other people have or might be requesting of us that again are filling up all of our time and space and mental and energetic capacity versus being able to tune into what we want and need and quieting all these external things long enough in order to be able to hear it. If this feels challenging to you, you are not alone. So many of us have been brought up with these same conditions and beliefs and thought patterns that it can be really challenging to override those things. Another thing that I think about often, because I'm an entrepreneur and I work with so many entrepreneurs, is again how we were trained to use time. That we're trained that I work a certain amount of hours and I get paid by the hour. I get paid more if I work more, if I work harder. That's the mentality that we're trained in. So often when people make the switch from this kind of corporate lifestyle, this factory mindset lifestyle to this entrepreneurial lifestyle, it can be really challenging to not just be stuck in that old default of, okay, I need to arrange my schedule in the same way. I need to be productive and doing things for 40 hours a week or whatever it is. We have these definitions of what it means to be successful, what it means to be productive. And all of those things are actually very far removed from what truly works the best for most people. Again, to tend to your mental energy, to tend to your physical energy, it is very hard to give focused time and attention to a computer, to your work, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week without taking any breaks. And yet that's how so many of us were trained. So it takes some deprogramming, it takes some practice to be able to explore what is a lifestyle, a mindset, a time structure that actually serves you more and supports you to, not that this is the goal, but supports you to be more productive and actually work less and have more potent use of your time, and also making that time and space for rest, for relaxation, for rejuvenation. So those are the reasons why it's hard. We've got our conditioning, our programming, and also the distractions of everyday life and how we've been trained and brought up to think about what is successful, what is productive, and what we believe will lead to the highest level of abundance, the highest level of safety. And we've been trained in one model of operating and one model of thinking that so often really does not work. So, what's the solution? One piece of this is connecting to why rest and rejuvenation and taking time for practices and habits that fuel you, why that matters. Feeling so connected and compelled to that why that it is going to help you break through some of these challenges, break through the conditioning and be willing to question these things, be willing to pause and quiet the distractions and actually make and protect time on your schedule for these kinds of practices. So, tuning into your why, actually making time for these things on your schedule, looking to see when you can put them on your schedule and protecting them like it's the most important thing you could be doing with your time. So, how do you actually do that? I know so often that can be easier said than done. And even my clients who really want to make time for these practices and think they're connected to the why, they still struggle. When push comes to shove and they have the choice of are they going to make time for that or not, sometimes it can still be a struggle. So I want to break down a little bit deeper of what can help you carve out time and space in your schedule for these things. So again, number one is connecting to that why. And the way that I work with clients, I take them through something I call a spark process. And the S of this, the first piece of the process, is about sustaining your spark. It's about this topic exactly, about why making time for rest, relaxation, rejuvenation is so critical. And again, this comes back to the mindset that if we're always looking to external circumstances to validate us, to make us feel safe, to make us feel happy, whether that external circumstance is money or prestige or a certain level of success or a certain level of achievement or fulfillment, we're always going to be chasing that and looking for what's lacking within us and within our own lives, and be motivated from this place of pressure, to be motivated from this place of force, from not enoughness, and chasing and grasping for this external thing in order to feel happy. Versus what I work on with my clients is being able to find happiness, safety, security, joy internally. And one of the ways to do that is to have a toolbox of practices that help you feel your best mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. One huge piece of that puzzle is learning to feel and embrace your emotions. And instead of looking to external things to bring you joy, like so often, maybe you're thinking about who can I hang out with this weekend that will make me happy? What's that next goal on the horizon that I think would fulfill me? And we're looking to all these external things to make us feel better or to alleviate feelings of discomfort. And we do other things to try to distract ourselves or numb ourselves because we're avoiding feeling feelings. And I talked about this topic in depth recently on the podcast in episode 117. So if you want to hear a lot more about what it takes to embrace your emotions without judgment, dive into that podcast for a really juicy deep dive into how to do that, how to feel your feelings without judgment. So that's a big piece of sustaining your spark. And then again, another big piece of this is what can help you get out of your head, get out of this constant desire to push, to force, to problem solve, to achieve, and allow yourself space to tune into your heart, your emotions, your body, your intuition, and to really believe and trust that when you fill yourself up in this way, you have that much more energy to dedicate to all of the things that matter to you in life. Because again, we think in this Western world that we're in, the way that we achieve our goals is through force versus allowing ourselves to be fueled by our internal state, to be fueled by our own internal passion and gratitude and life force energy, and letting that propel us forward. So another practice that I talk about all the time with my clients is something called an artist date. And it's from the book, The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And an artist date is something that you take yourself on, a date that you take yourself on by yourself that fuels your creativity, inspiration, joy, whatever it is. It just feels fun to do. And the purpose of this is that we are sensory beings. We are not just our minds. We have so much more ways to intake information. We have so much more capacity to feel and tune into energy than just from our mental state. So it's this idea that, and I would guess you've experienced something like this before, that if you're trying to solve a problem or get an idea for something, it comes in the shower, or it comes when you're driving, or it comes when you're walking, when you've put down trying to force a solution to something and you allow that to come to you. That's the beauty of this artist date. It's a space for you to invite in creativity, invite in inspiration, intuitive, divine guidance, and allow all the ideas, inspiration, creativity that you're craving to come to you. It was actually on an artist date 5 years ago that I got the idea to go on the year-long solo road trip that I went on. I had taken myself on an artist date to Barnes & Noble, to a bookstore, and that's where the idea popped into my head. And I wasn't searching for it. I wasn't grasping for it. I was just prioritizing time in my life and my schedule for things that inspired me. And that's when the ideas flowed through. Another example of things that sustain your spark for so many people, me included, is movement. Being able to move your body, connect to your body, allow yourself to express yourself authentically and feel the feelings in your body. Again, because so often we don't give ourselves space to feel. We don't even ask ourselves, how are we feeling today? We just go, go, go and do, and, tunnel vision on what it is we're working on instead of being able to slow down and find that time and space to connect with yourself. And if you're listening to this and you don't know this about me, I am a facilitator in a community called Sparkle Space in Baltimore. It's a community where we lead heart-centered movement and give people the opportunity to be, move, connect, breathe with themselves, with each other in a really supportive space and environment. And what we hear so often, especially for people who are coming for the first time, is that I didn't know how bad I needed this. I didn't know how bad I needed space to feel, space to be, space to relax, space to allow myself to just show up without needing to do anything. It is so healing and so transformational to give yourself time and space for this. And I had a really profound moment when Sparkle Space was hosting a dance at an event called Bazaar Esoterica in Baltimore recently. And it was this outdoor dance in this beautiful farm. There was a pasture of cows in the background, and there was a giant tree that we were dancing around, and the event was at sunset. So during the dance, the sun was setting and the moon was rising at the same time. And it was this incredibly beautiful experience of all of these people coming together, dancing freely, smiling, laughing, crying, feeling their feet on the grass, and seeing the majesty of Mother Nature around us. And I remember having a moment where I was laying on a blanket, watching the clouds change color in this magnificent sunset and just seeing them slowly drift across the sky and thinking, when was the last time I laid on a blanket and watched the sunset? It's probably been a very long time. And at the end of our dance, like we always do, we had a closing circle where people got to share, and so many people were just expressing immense gratitude for being able to be here in nature, for seeing the incredibleness of the moon and the sun and the trees and everything that we were surrounded by, and just how magical it felt. And the profound moment that happened for me was when I thought, we could feel this magic every single day. The sun sets and the moon rises every single day. And we have the power to bring that level of presence, to bring that level of awe, of reverence to our everyday life. And yet, so often, we're just driving from one place to the next, thinking about all the things we need to do, that we're not even living in this moment. We're not present to the flowers that are blooming in your front yard, or tasting the food that you eat versus eating so quickly you've barely even looked at your meal because you're also looking at your phone. And again, I'm sharing all of these stories to help you think about why. Why does prioritizing time for practices that fuel you, for rest, for rejuvenation, why does that matter to you? What impact have you noticed on your own life when you prioritize slowing down, when you prioritize these kinds of practices that light you up? And again, not that we need to look through the lens of productivity. And I feel like this can be a powerful bridge for a lot of people because we're so trained to be productive. And truly, there's so many studies and so much research about why rest and rejuvenation makes you way more productive. I'm in the middle of reading a book right now called 10x is easier than 2x. And they talk about how Steve Jobs would routinely carve out weeks at a time where his staff was not allowed to contact him. And he was just in this space of reading and experiencing and ideating and just letting ideas flow to him, and removing all of the daily distractions, all of the daily responsibilities, and carving out this time and space for freedom. And how you can think about athletes, all kinds of other Olympic level professionals who are masters at their craft. And one of the things that they prioritize just as much as training is rest, is recuperation, is nourishing their body, their energy, their sleep, because that's what fuels everything else. So it's being able to rewire your brain to remind yourself that what will actually support everything, it will help me be able to do more potent work in the world. It will help me actually feel better now instead of constantly chasing some future thing, is carving out this time and space to slow down, to be, to breathe, and how that is so incredibly valuable and necessary. It's one of the reasons why all of my hobbies, dance, music, traveling, all of these things are so important to me. And I will prioritize them, number one on my list, because I know if I don't make time and space for those things, that's when I fall into burnout. That's when I fall into exhaustion. And I'm actually able to do way more in my days, in my weeks, and my months, and my years, because I prioritize this time for myself. So I will often say also that prioritizing yourself isn't selfish, it's mandatory. It matters more than anything else, because if you don't have energy for yourself, you also don't have energy for all of the other things or people that matter to you. And if you are in Baltimore and you're craving time to move and be and connect, I'm hosting the next Sparkle Space event on Friday, October 17th. We have special Sparkle Space After Dark, one Friday a month. So I'll be leading that from 7 to 9 p.m. I'll put the link for that in the show notes. Some of our events are open to women, non-binary, and femmes. This is one of them. And then we host other dances that are all gender experiences. So follow us on Instagram if you're in Baltimore and you want to hear more about those events. I'll put all of that information in the show notes. So again, step one of this process is asking yourself why sustaining your spark matters. And you can look back over your own life and see and think about what has been the impact when I have taken out time for practices like this, and really ingrain within yourself a why that compels you to move forward. And if you want inspiration for what are more tools that you can add to your toolbox, I have a free resource that you can download at ginacasbarro.com/transformational-tools. I share 15 of my favorite tools and practices that really help me sustain my spark, as well as reflection questions that can help you hone in on what could be in your toolbox that would really support you. So check that out if you don't have that already. So the why is the first part of this, right? And then, like I said before, we also have to navigate the programming and the beliefs that we've built up around why rest is not productive, why it's not a good use of our time. So the second part of my process that I work on with my clients is something called a Phoenix mindset. And we look at what are the stories you've been telling yourself about rest? What are the beliefs that you have that hold you back from being able to prioritize that? Maybe you think you're lazy, or you're falling behind, or you're not worthy, you're not good enough. We look at all those thoughts and we explore what's a new story that you could tell yourself. What are more empowering thoughts and beliefs that would fuel your energy instead of drain your energy? So that's another piece of the puzzle. The next part of the process is activating your vision. And it's connected to this why, and really being able to paint a picture for yourself of what you think the impact would be if you made more time for rest and rejuvenation. How do you think that would impact your energy? How do you think that would impact your work, your relationships? To really be able to paint this whole vision that lights you up, that you can see in sensory detail, that you can imagine what it would feel like if you took a whole afternoon to read a book or bake bread or whatever it is that you want to do, and to be able to feel into the version of you who does that. So that's what activating your vision is about. And the next piece of the process is about redesigning your reality. This is something I work on with my clients all the time with feng shui, of how to actually create a space in your home, in your environment, that makes following through with these practices that much easier. Because, like I said, we're not just mental beings. Working with our thoughts is one way to approach things, and we can make change so much easier by working with our environments. So if you want to meditate, you can create a special place in your home, a special chair. Maybe you have a nice rug that you love feeling your feet on. Maybe there's incense that you light. Maybe there's a candle that you light. And you're adding these sensory details that make it even more enticing, inviting, compelling to want to do the thing that you said you want to do. So your environment can be this really powerful ally and catalyst to help you creating change. So again, think about for yourself, what is a practice that you want to lean into that you think would help you sustain your spark? And what is something that you can change in your environment that would help you do that? And if you want to learn more about the feng shui side of things, I also just recorded a podcast about that. It's episode 122. So go into that if you want to learn more about the feng shui side of things. And the last piece of this process that's really important, especially for this, is something I call kinetic confidence. And what kinetic confidence means to me is that so often people think I need to be 100% confident and sure and clear before I move forward towards my goals, when actually confidence is built one step at a time. So how does this pertain to being able to make more time and space for rest and rejuvenation? One thing about kinetic confidence is being able to track evidence, to track what's the impact when you did these things, so that you can reinforce to your brain, again, why it matters, and celebrating the wins. Because as human beings, we have a negativity bias. We're always going to look for what's not working, what's lacking, what's missing, and it takes practice to redirect your brain towards what is working, towards what is valuable. I was just talking to a client about this morning who really wants to make time and space for these kinds of practices. And we talked about the importance of tracking these things. So for a week, She's going to experiment with certain mindfulness practices and every day track what was the impact? What was the impact when I did this heart check in and put my hand on my chest and took a couple of deep breaths to tune in and really have a record of that? And I've been doing this tracking practice, this evidence tracking practice for 5 years now. And I have 5 years worth of journals that have evidence of what has happened when I've made time to rest, when I've listened to my heart, when I've followed the sparks that are guiding me forward. I have proof so that when my brain tells me, no, it's not safe to rest. No, keep working. You should take a break. I can say back to it, no, I know that when I take a nap, when I go for a walk and spend time with my favorite trees, when I leave my phone upstairs and eat a meal mindfully, I know these practices fuel me. And I've seen the evidence over the course of 5 years and beyond. And I know why these things matter. And I'm willing to carve out time for them. So that's a huge piece of kinetic confidence, of being able to train your brain why these things matter. And then again, be able to see and notice, what are the results? What are the results when you carve out space for practices that fuel you mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually? What I've seen for myself and my clients is that you are so much more able to enjoy your life now. You can let go of constantly focusing on some future state, some future achievement to make you happy, and you're finding so much more joy and presence and gratitude in this moment and letting that be enough. You have a more regulated nervous system. Your stress level is not through the roof anymore. You found ways to be more grounded, even if the world around you is chaotic, because you're prioritizing time for practices that help you do that, to help you come back to your center, to help you come back to your breath. And when you're making space and letting go of the constant distractions, you are so much more open to receive breadcrumbs, intuitive guidance, intuitive messages. And when you have the emotional resiliency and you're willing to feel your feelings, you're that much more able to take risks, to take chances, to follow your spark and blaze your own path. And all of that leads to living the most fulfilling, purposeful, rewarding life that I believe is possible when we give ourselves the best chance, the best amount of energy in this moment to do so. So I hope that this episode today inspires you to reflect on, what are those tools and practices for yourself? And if this has felt like a struggle for you and you're ready to not have to do this alone, this is exactly the kind of work I get up to with my one-on-one coaching clients. We go through this whole spark process, not just about how to prioritize rest and rejuvenation. We go through it for your whole life. And we really clarify what matters to you. And together we develop the skills and tools and resources and habits that can help you move forward with confidence and courage to blaze your own path, to let go of these societal external expectations and actually live a life that's true and authentic and meaningful for you. So if you want to explore what that kind of support can look like in your life, I offer free clarity calls where we can talk all about it, and you can schedule one of those at ginacasbarro.com/clarity call. These calls are all about you and making time and space to ask your heart what you desire and exploring what it would take to bring that vision to life. So if that calls to you, I cannot wait to connect. And like I said, I hope that this conversation inspires you to make more time and space for you, because you matter, my friend. And with that, I'm sending you so much love, and I will talk to you soon.